And we're recording. Great. Welcome to the I Work For Me podcast. This is Melina Lewis, and today I am chatting to Diane Boorman. She is the owner and founder of Brand Analytics, which is a very interesting business that I am super excited to unpack with her and understand what it's about. Diane is not only a business owner, but she also works with small businesses. So she is super interesting. And I think we're going to be able to squeeze a lot of value out of her brain today, which I'm quite excited about. So without kind of further ado from me, let's jump in and say hello, Diane.
Hi there. How are you doing today?
Fine, good, thank you. It's a beautiful day in Cape Town. So yeah, so it's I've already done a little beach walk. I know, sneaky, hey? And
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful day, which is great because we don't have them that often necessarily at this time of year. So yeah.
Usually we get blown off our feet while we try and walk along the beach, don't we? Hey?
True story that, exactly. So yeah, it is. It's lovely to be chatting to you today. It seems like the planets are aligning, so that's great. Diane, I wonder, before we kind of jump into the business side of things, would you mind sharing with us what it is you wanted to be when you were a little girl growing up? What is your first memory of the first kind of job that you wanted to do?
I think it was a lawyer. I wanted to fight for people's rights. So it was quite interesting as you grow older, you realize just what that entails. And I think the studying side of it put me off completely, although hopefully I'm still fighting for people's rights now. I'm not a very good studious person, so so that wasn't great.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it's interesting how that thing of fighting for people's rights has actually come about in another way. So that's obviously a core value to you as a person, and in terms of helping people and working with people, and that's come about in a very different way, which is really awesome. I love to see that kind of initial dream come true, but maybe in a different format. I know we were all inspired by LA Law as kids. I think maybe you might have been
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, no,
um,
absolutely.
so
It always looks so cool.
yes, it looked fantastic, I know. But as you say, except for
Yeah.
studying Latin. Um, so tell us, what is it that you and Brand Analytics do and offer?
Um, so I have a IP that I've developed, which is trademarked. It's for the Diamond Plan. We journey with a business owner over a period of 9 months. We spend time looking at each part of business
Mhm.
and what have they done to develop their strategies, their plans, how they're moving forward. Have they thought about all the various opportunities and possibilities that are out there as business? And then after that, I've just busy launching an online academy where I've created a community for my business owners. And once a month, we have the Diamond Alchemy, which is where we business owners talk to business owners about certain issues that they've come up with, or opportunities, or something that they've learned and they want to share as tips. We have a guest speaker that comes in once a month to talk on a different part of their business. And then I work with them and hold them accountable to what their plans are and how they've got there. And if they're still in their comfort zone, I push them a little bit further past that comfort zone moment so that they can still keep growing. So it's a community for business owners really to develop and grow and understand the business side of business.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of like two parts. The first part is kind of like the 9-month program, and then over and above that, then there's the academy, which is kind of a business forum community that people can join as well. Do you have to go through your 9-month program to be part of that community?
So what happens with business owners is they tend to chase the sale. We all do. We need to have money come through. We need to have a cash flow, and especially now. The problem comes into play, and we've seen it huge during lockdown, especially when all business owners were now chasing the money that was
Mm.
promised to them from the president. You need to be compliant. about 80% of people that had come to me are not compliant. So, and my clients will roll over because I always tell them that they have a hobby and they don't have a business. Because you step into a business, you've got to understand that if you are a business owner, it's very different from taking your passion and getting some sales. Now you take that to the next level of being a business. And once you get into that level, you've actually got to be compliant. We've got rules and regulations as a country and as a business. And that's, if you're going to want to play in this arena, you've got to understand them. So that's part of what we do within the 9 months, as well as by the time you finish the 9 months time, if you've done everything, because you get homework, then you would be fund ready, which is what we try and do, is jump businesses to grow. So we will go look for funding, look for grants, look for investors, for businesses to be able to grow. And that's the whole point behind what I do. I want you to understand that you can grow, that it's you must think bigger than what you have ever thought, and let's move you into that space. So yes, you need to go through it. You either need to be a client for funding, or you need to be a client going through the 9 months journey with me in order to get to our community.
Amazing. Okay, so you also do the fundraising side of things, and so does that work like a what are they called? The funds that, what would it?
Angel investors or
Yes,
whatever. Yes.
exactly. Do you act as that then?
So I have been extremely lucky. I moved down from Joburg to Cape Town to come and retire 10 years ago. And in that time, when I was trying to work out, so what is my purpose now? Why am I here? What should I be doing? Because I sold a really big business in Joburg, which was amazing. But now, from working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to nothing, you try and work out,
Right.
okay, so what's the balance here? You can't go from this to this,
Right.
But in Cape Town, it's very different to work. Joburg, you can pick up the telephone or send an email and you get an answer immediately. Cape Town, you first go for your walk on the beach or hike up Table Mountain or a surf or something, and you don't get the answers. But what the other part of Cape Town is you've got to build credibility. So people have got to understand and trust who you are and what you have to say. And that was part of a journey that I had to walk to understand. First, what was it that I could do that people would be able to trust that I can say what I'm doing? So I journeyed a little bit on building my credibility and got involved with Cape Chamber, which I'm now the chair for the small business development side, and I have been for the last 2 years. I'm on a board of directors, and with everything that I do, I try and fight for the underdog, like I said just now, like for the small business. I've sat in Parliament fighting for payments to small business. I go and work with stakeholders in the government and try and uplift the thought process of small businesses. And in doing that, I've been able to link to a lot of the government funds that are available and understand what they are and how they can help small businesses. But I also have a pool of private investors that want to invest for their growth and also for the growth of businesses. And at the same time, I work outside of the country. So there's a lot of money around. It's just they're very specific criteria that you've got to try and find the right fund for the person or for the business. And it can take years to find the right one in order for
Right.
growth, but at least
Yes.
I know what's needed and try and search for it while in the whole journey of the things. So yeah, it's a bit different than angel investors. That's a different play area, but
Yeah.
it's also one of those areas that we dabble in a little bit, but I'm not an angel investor.
Right. Okay. So you just kind of help facilitate it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super interesting, and I think very exciting for a lot of small businesses. Do small businesses apply to be on your program? Like, do you kind of do a critical analysis? You don't just let them walk in the door and go, right, cool, and here's some money. I think, sometimes people are a bit like, oh, great, I'll give her a call. She's going to help me get some money, help my business, and it's all going to be, easy come. But I'm sure there's some criteria, like when a business walks into your door, drops you an email, what are you looking for?
So I've got to be able to help them. They've got to have an open mind. They've got to want to learn. And they've also got to understand that money is normally given to businesses that are growing. So are you making a profit? Whereas the businesses that want the money are the businesses that are not making money. So there's always a catch-22 behind it.
Yes.
So I'm part of growth. I'm not part of business rescue. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah, no, that's for airlines. Yeah, okay.
I mean, a lot of my clients, they will take a little bit of a back jerk moment when I say to them that you've actually got to go and walk the streets first. If you're a startup, I don't work with startups.
Okay.
Go and walk the streets and go and find your clients. Go and understand what's there. Because normally a startup is either somebody who's come out of corporate and therefore is pretty arrogant because they've had all the departments working, and if they needed something, they just pick up the telephone. That's not what a small business is.
Yeah.
Or they've come out of studying, which is exactly the same thing because they have everybody helping them, moving them forward. So they're just as arrogant.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't work with that kind of space. I work with the next level space, the people that have been in business for a while, that realize that it's hard work some of the times, but also that they're making money, and now they're ready to streamline because, in order to jump into a lot of the spaces that we have available for us as business owners in South Africa, you need to be able to step out of your business and go on an international marketing trip, for example, but you're out of your business. So do you have all your systems in place that your business can continue running while you're not there? If you don't, that would be an area that needs to be put into place. Are you the only one that's making all the decisions? And are you the only person that you delegate all the tasks to? Because then you're in serious trouble. Then you don't have a business, then you have a hobby. So it's about those kind of questions that we ask, and I often give a goal sheet, and you're only allowed to put one of those as you on the goal sheet. The rest has to be delegated to somebody else. And can you do that? Those kind of things become a business.
How interesting. So I work also as a marketing consultant. And so I very often see that in my clients where the business owner is making 99% of the decisions. And, it can work up to a point, but after a while they become a complete bottleneck and you cannot get anything out of them. It is very frustrating for everybody else on the team. And so I love that you start there. That's fantastic. I think a lot of people need to be kind of like almost shaken and said, you can't keep doing this. Your business cannot grow. You're a one-man band, that you're going to do the same tune over and over because there's the rest of the orchestra is missing. So that's really, really interesting. And I like so I'm going to almost take a step back and say, okay, so you owned a business and then you sold it and retired, and you're not old. So well done to you. I can tell.
The filters on Zoom.
Oh yeah, I know. Do they plump up my cheekbones also? I like those. But so you obviously were, you made an early success, if I can be so bold as to say that, in terms of your career, and then you sold that and took like a step change in your life. And so that journey that you went on in terms of developing this new business, would you be able to share kind of like how how you did that, because I think that maybe, sometimes whether it's the sale of a business or whether it's being fired from a job or whether it's a health issue, sometimes we often need to be kind of knocked off our pedestal, and we open up our eyes, we look around us and we go, oh, who am I, kind of thing. Like,
Absolutely.
what do you mean if I don't have to rush to the office by 7 o'clock and then leave at 7 o'clock at night and then like sleep for the rest of the time? Like, who am I actually? And so
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of maybe just ask you if you can kind of step back in time and go, what kind of hints would you or advice would you give to people to say to them, like, take the time or jump straight into something, or what would you advise?
So I had I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. I left the corporate industry and was on a really great track, but left it, and that was the decision that we made. Well, it wasn't actually. That's a lie. It was a decision I made at the last second. I resigned, phoned my husband and said I've resigned. Drove down the road, bought a business, and said, "Oops." Bought a business. But that's the kind of person that I am. I need that excitement, that energy all the time. But when I moved, so that was one business. Then I moved into a second business, and both of which I was able to sell. The one was sold as a perfect franchise model. The second one was sold as a really big business with huge staff, the whole two, which was absolutely awesome.
Hmm.
The problem with going from a really successful space into a space of almost nothing was a bit of a transition, because it was sounded great. You know, you can go for coffee every day, you can meet up with your friends, but my friends were not in this space, however. So it was also trying to, find where our new group of friends were in our space that we were in and all that. But I think the universe gave me a real fat slap around the ear hole, because I was still in that space of wanting to, without taking the time out to actually sit back and say, now what do I want to do? So my business in Joburg was a decor hire company, and we did all the very big events in South Africa. Every single prestigious event we were part of, which was absolutely awesome. But climbing up and down ladders was what the daily exercise was for my team, as well as for myself if there was an issue, and up and down cherry pickers. And so I was in the air a lot of the time. And I tripped over a tiny little step in my home here and broke my ankle. So that was the universe telling me to relax, just calm it. So I then spent a couple of months in my four walls looking around and thinking, okay, so what am I going to do now? And that was to realize, like, what could I do, and what do I really want to do, and what information could I share now as well? Like, what have I learned that I could pass on to somebody else? And in my rehab for my ankle, I was in a space where somebody was talking about their business, and I'm going, oh, they're making the wrong decisions here, and I could just hear the process that they were using. And that was really the start of the journey to where I am now. And my mom had to say to her, you're doing it wrong. You're going down the wrong road here. Anyway, we had coffee together, and she became a client, and we journeyed together. And we took her she went from a garage-based business. She now exports to 18 different countries and is
Wow.
extremely successful. So it's just about finding those opportunities that really resonate with you and trying them out. So she then turned the tables on me a couple of years after that to say, okay, so you've been in this space, go and develop it now yourself. Big talk. So she challenged me to develop a cosmetics product. So in turn, I developed a cosmetics house and developed a whole range of products. And we went through the whole process of export. I actually launched it in New York, and with the help of the DTI. So everything that I talk about is stuff that I've done. But then I realized that industry wasn't an industry that I solely wanted to be in. I needed to be in a bigger university than just that specific industry. So I did it. I've got all my formulas, I've got all my things, but I closed the business before it got too big and too out of control. And that was really the start of going into the little journey into the space that I'm in now. But it's about baby steps. It's about really working out, so what is it important for you? Like, I'm that being at home in my space since lockdown, but I'm on Zoom all the time. So I'm still meeting people, I'm still engaging. I'm engaging without borders now. So the geographical constraints that we believe that we had is now no longer. So every day I'm international. I'm talking around the world, which is super awesome. So it's, where do you really want to go in and take the time to work out for yourself, rather than getting into that panic about there needs to be a salary check at the end of the month, or there needs to be money or whatever, because you can make money, but are you still going to be happy? And that becomes really important. And especially now, people's mindsets have had to change. Are you relevant? Is what you do relevant to the people that you're doing it for? Or are you changing direction with the clients that you have? Maybe they're no longer your clients, or maybe what you offer is no longer relevant. So you've got to find what's relevant for the time that we're in.
Absolutely. And, it's almost though that it's kind of like, well, obvious. Of course, you should know if you're relevant or not, right? Like, you would think that you would know that, but sometimes we just kind of, fuddle along and just carry on and plod, and our clients kind of pay us because they like us and we're okay. But then when push comes to shove and, people are under pressure, then they very quickly cut the dead wood and make some hard decisions. And sure, I really like you, but sorry, I'm not going to hire you anymore. So it's actually, I would say, almost a relief in what I think, like, either you need it or you're not. Pay me for good work or don't. So yeah, that's very interesting that's happened. And I love that you talk about a lack of borders, because your offering and your knowledge and your insight, a business is a business is a business in any country. Sure, there is legislation and there are constrictions in terms of, maybe transport or whatever the case may be. But in terms of running a good business, those fundamentals are the same no matter where you are across the world. So, I mean,
100%.
are you working with people in Europe or in the US, or everywhere?
Yeah, it's been very interesting, because during this time now, I've also been able to work out that the message that I want to get out is bigger than just South Africa. So I've stepped into the space of guest speaking and have been going through the whole journey of developing my keynote speech and all those kind of things. And really, what I want to say to business owners is, don't use COVID or lockdown or whatever you want to call it as an excuse to fail. Because if you're a business owner, you have more than you to consider. You've got a community, you've got staff, you've got suppliers. So you've got to step into that space right now. So don't use it as an excuse. If your business wasn't working before COVID, a lot of business owners have taken COVID as the excuse now why they've closed the door. But it's not. They were not working beforehand. So, anyway, it's just an interesting space. So I have been a guest speaker in New Zealand at the Entrepreneur Innovation Summit now. I have been interviewed in Canada on a podcast with Samantha Chris. I have been working with companies in the UK, and I've developed an awesome relationship with a couple of companies that I work with in Europe. So I'm a little bit all over, which has been interesting. Oh, and Mauritius, the consulate of Mauritius, and I have been developing a whole lot of things together. So he comes and he chats with my business owners about export and what's available and looking for those opportunities for businesses. So there's a whole array of what's happening around the world right now. So it's a little bit of something in all sorts of different countries, which is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I want to know then, in terms of your business and your offering that you have now developed, do you set particular goals for that business? Like, I want to help
Yeah.
20 businesses per year, or are you a bit more flexible, or how do you run this business?
Everything that I encourage or put down as a law for my clients to do, I have to do as well. So, yes, goals are really important. And I think business owners forget that because who they're accountable to. Nobody. They're the owners. So it doesn't really matter if they don't make a sale or whatever. And that's not actually how you grow business. So, yes, I have my goals for the year, goals for the month. And I can work with 100 business owners. That's my capacity at the moment.
Mhm,
However, going online, it frees up a lot more of my time to be able to help more business owners.
mhm,
And we're looking at employing, which is really nice, somebody to come in and take over the admin side of all the funding applications that we've been doing. So that's an awesome add-on that we've been doing. It just becomes too much for my team at the moment. So so the amount of people and business owners that we work with obviously now becomes way more. But my big goal that everybody has to have is I want to be able to influence 1 million business owners. So, and that is across guest speaking. I want to challenge the mindset and the thought process of how business owners are doing what they're doing. Because during lockdown, everybody thought, oh, this is a fantastic holiday time in the beginning. Let's
mm,
take a little bit of time out. Wonderful. The problem with time out is it's going to take you 9 times longer and 9 times more money to get back into the rat race then.
mm,
So, and how many business owners have actually picked up the telephone to their clients and said to them, we are here, we're still around, how can I help you? What are your new needs? Please know that my business is still functioning, all my staff is here, that kind of thing. So it's really about going back to basics in a lot of spaces at the moment. And every single business owner should have done that during lockdown and rethought what am I relevant for? What is that one word that everybody needs to know me for? Those kind of things they should have done, and it's very important to do right now if you haven't.
mm. Yeah, and I can see it in so many businesses that 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 were in COVID, and you had the extremes where you had people sending emails and going, "Oh, our little bookstore is going to close. So can you donate?" And I was incensed by that because I was like, "No, no, I'm not going to
Yeah,
donate to you. What are you offering
yeah,
me? I'm the client."
yeah,
Like, I was like, no,
yeah,
clearly, one, you're not managing your business properly, that the doors are closed for a few weeks and now you need to close down. And two, like, are you going to give me books in lieu of that money, or what's happening? Like,
yeah,
I'm going to donate to people who are starving, not to
yeah,
a bookstore.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
I was like, so you had that kind of thing. And then you had other people who were innovating on the fly, that were now offering a new service in touch, SMSing, emailing. And so it was very stark, kind of the differences and how people approached. And absolutely, I agree with you with those that were taking a nice big holiday. And my best was when people were like so bored. I was like,
Yeah.
how like I mean, I started this podcast as a kind of a desire to try and inspire people to think differently about business, and to maybe start looking at multiple streams of income, and really be innovative and self-reliant. And other people were going, I'm bored. And
Yeah.
I go, maybe I'm just a busybody, but you understand, like, I can do 50,000 things around the house. I can do
Yeah.
tons of work. but maybe that's because I'm used to working for myself and working from home. And so then it's an unfair comparison. But yeah, I think, like, as I often say to my children, which was something that I picked up from a friend, she was like, only boring people get bored. And so, so when kids are saying, I'm bored, then you just turn around and
Yeah,
go, only boring people get bored.
yeah,
So I was
absolutely.
just, yeah, so it was just a funny,
Crazy.
yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah,
So on that
yeah.
note, in terms of kind of how different people respond to different stimuli or hard decisions in difficult economic times, failures, really, how have you, I almost want to say, have you ever failed? Because you seem like kind of go get it. But I would like to think that you have, because that builds an element of robustness and grit. But can you talk us through any particular failures that stand out and that you've maybe incorporated now into how you work with the businesses that you work with?
So I have a obviously, I have a very different view on failures. I don't believe that we have failures.
Right.
I believe it's stepping stones to whatever you go, wherever you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
So if my failure or a failure that I have had is very different to somebody else's failure.
Mm-hmm.
So, who dictates what failure actually is? So my whole thing is I rather look at what possibilities could have been created, what were the opportunities that weren't taken, and what can we learn from the spaces that we in. And of course, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on. That's the negative side, but I don't look at that. That's not part of my bank account. Will be in zero or minus, and then you think to yourself, okay, we need to do something now. What happened? Let's like relook at the situation. But it's really quite sad that the world has to start dictating that we have failures, or that that it's not possibilities of learning at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
if I go right back to my one of my first jobs that I had, worked in retail at the head office, and my big boss wouldn't promote me, and I was devastated. And then gave him an ultimatum: well, if you don't promote me, then I'm leaving. And he was going, well, you can't give me 24 hours in which to make these kind of decisions. And well, yes, I can. And I promote me, so I left. And at that exact moment, I was poached to move to Joburg, to the next business. So it's really about finding those doors and allowing them to open for you, rather than closing doors and saying, okay, well, that was a failure. Can't touch that anymore. It's about, if I go back to there, I probably wouldn't have given him an ultimatum and said, you need to promote me, because that's being arrogant, and being in the corporate world, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there are a lot of places where you can look at what you've been doing and how you've been doing it, and make it different, make it more user friendly, make it more available to different kind of clientele. And if we speak about what's going on now, I should have been online quicker.
Right.
Why was I not there? Well, you know what? Take an eye, not the greatest, and I was going to get there. But now I've been pushed in that space, and it
Mm.
has to just happen. And I think that that's where a lot of the business owners struggled with, because they were being pushed in a direction that they weren't comfortable with. But we can only grow when we're out of our comfort zone.
Mm.
So take the opportunity rather as learning. And we were also extremely lucky that now a lot of the learning platforms were available, because people were allowing you to go on for free almost. The amount of money that you had to pay was like 100 million or something ridiculous. So then you were able to upskill yourself if you really wanted to. And, I took that opportunity to do that. And if anybody saw the way that I started to put this course online, they would have laughed themselves completely silly, because I had no idea what I was doing. But you learn, and that's how you move forward. And maybe I should have had investors earlier, but it was only part of now during lockdown that at the beginning of lockdown I had over 400 people phoning or messaging me on a daily basis to say, where's the money, how do we get the money, how are we going to survive? And at that point I realized, well, first of all, most of them are not compliant, so they're never going to get it anyway. And
Mm.
secondly, the person from the government's point of view, that's doing all the assessments, comes from a numbers background. So they want to see that you're successful in order to give you more money to grow your business. But that's not the people that need the money. So looking for investors was the next option. Where can we find investors? But they also want a return on their investment.
Mhm.
So business owners really need to understand that they need to get their ducks in a row. They need to make sure their business is growing in order. And that's more of the message that I really want business owners to understand is growth. You've got to grow. How can you grow? There's a lot opportunities out there, and often I get asked, do I give away a percentage of my business for money, that kind of stuff. And it's always about, what do you want to do with the business? Where do you want to take it? If
Mhm.
you want to develop it and 5 years time you want to sell it, because like me, I always thought that would be the best way of me having a business, is every 3 years starting another one, getting it to a level and selling it. But now I get to play in all these other people's business, so my creative juices are satisfied.
Yeah,
But that's what it is. You can give away shares if you're getting enough money in order to scale your business to a point where you can sell it.
yeah,
So what is it that you want to do? And
yeah,
and that's mainly where business owners, SMMEs have no idea. Because what do you do when you sell? What is your next step? So they have never put their goals together. Like I thought, oh, retirement is awesome until you retired and,
good.
well, there's no income coming in. You're looking at four walls. What do you do? So it
Mm.
really is about taking a little bit of time and organizing, where do you want to go? What is that ultimate? Working 3 days a week, working once a week, what is it that's going to fulfill your soul and your needs at the time? And that's how. So possibilities, opportunities, look for them, but don't go and grab all those silver shiny objects that come your way, because there's many of them that comes on a daily basis, and then we chase something else and we lose direction of where we really want to go. And that's what one of the biggest downfalls are. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, we need a bit of creativity, we need stimulus. And when you get these new opportunities, we just chase. And that becomes where the downfall of a lot of businesses come. And the failure rate, if we can look at 80% of businesses will fail within the first 5 years. So when it's not working, you've kind of got to take a step back and say, okay, why is it not working? Is
Mhm.
it because I'm focusing on the wrong client, which is a huge part of what business owners do, is they focus where they believe the money is or where their clients are. But do they really have the money for what you have to offer? Are they really the ultimate client?
Mhm.
So instead of chasing one client, maybe it's chasing, many more clients at one time. So we're trying to work out what that balance is.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of valuable advice in everything you've said there, and I can only say my husband is a tech entrepreneur, if you want to put it that way, and which, with great love to my husband, I mean, are the worst kind. And I'm sure you will agree, just nod and smile. Um, but what I find in that industry is that they aren't even chasing the client. They're chasing the big sale to of that product or even idea to that big investor. um
Yeah.
and and it's like, but who's going to buy this thing, or who's going to use this? And like, that doesn't even seem clear. So yeah, so you're so right. There's a lot of work to do in terms of building that business and thinking clearly about where you want to go, where you want to take it. And I love that you have goals within your business and that you are driving that in terms of your clients. So that's great. Um, you also mentioned, in terms of having your ducks in a row, um, are they compliant? And I'm assuming you are talking, and just for clarity purposes, you're talking about your taxes, your business registration. Is that what you're talking about in terms of compliance? Are you also talking about BEE? When you talk compliance, it's quite broad. Just to be specific, what should businesses have in their basket in order to be kind of tick that compliance box?
So right now, there's a fund available for Western Cape businesses.
Right.
And the criteria behind this fund is you need a tax clearance certificate, you need your company documents. So you need to have been registered, you need to have been registered with CIPC, you need to have had your last 2 years financials. So you need an auditor or an accountant or somebody. You need to have your tax clearances. They would have had to do it, or you can do it online either. So that's normally the first port of call. But before that, before this specific fund that's available, there was the UIF, which became the biggest bugbear, I think, for 90% of businesses that had staff.
Yeah.
Because if you have staff, you've got to pay UIF as well as SDL, depending on what level of business you are. But so UIF then needed to be compliant with that in order to get your UIF payments out, TERS payments out. That means that SARS needs to have your information, but the same information needs to also be with the UIF department. And that's where the biggest downfall and the biggest systems problems was created, because a business owner realized or thought that SARS was the area where they paid their money to. However, you also needed to be registered with UIF, and they needed to be the same information. So if you had a change of banking account, you needed to make sure both of them were changed, not just the one, because otherwise they don't talk. So the whole dilemma, and I'm on a couple of groups of thousands of people that haven't been able to get payments out. They weren't able to pay staff because simply they hadn't been paying before now. They hadn't got the information right. The one wasn't talking to the other. So it's and I keep saying this, it's really about taking a step back and going back to basics. What have you done? What do you need to do? Like, there's going to be VAT payments coming up. Are you VAT registered? Are you sure you need to be VAT registered, first of all? It's those kind of compliances that you need to make sure. Then, if you're going to step out into the growth space of funding, a lot of the funding that's available in South Africa specifically is 51% BE compliancy, or 51% level of BE. So what do you have a BE certificate or affidavit? Depending on what level of business you are, you need to have that. If you're a sole person, owning a business, do you need to maybe now start looking and having partners where both of you can grow together? So it's really about, where do you want to take your business to? So the fund now, at the moment, they don't ask for a BE certificate, which is the first one that's right the way through lockdown. There was, for tourism, you could have applied for your tourism fund that was available of 50,000 Rand. The same thing, you still needed to be compliant. And a lot of them will ask for management reports. And I find that doesn't matter what the size of your business is, the business owner is not able to draw a management report, because what they've done is they've handed over the responsibility to a bookkeeper, an accountant, an auditor, or somebody, but it's their business. Why are they not able to look at what's going on in their bank account? And that, for me, has been one of the biggest scary moments ever, that you've handed over your money to somebody else and you can't. Bring it back home, bring it back so that you can have the responsibility of drawing out your own management report, which is what you should be getting anyway, so that you know what the flow of your cash is and the flow of your orders are. And, so yeah, compliance, it depends on what you want. If you want money, you must make sure your money is compliant. If you want staff, you must make sure they are compliant. So it really is about what you want from your business and what you expect.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, because I went on that exact journey. I wasn't applying for any kind of funding, but we got in, I think it was February, an email from our accountant to say, I'm immigrating to New Zealand. I've handed over your books to this other bunch. And my husband and I
No.
have both our personal and our business account with this one guy.
Oops.
And yeah, it was a disaster. I spent, and I'm not ashamed to say, a lot of time crying on the phone to SARS in lockdown. Thank goodness. I was like, well, luckily I couldn't go anywhere. So I could, but when you've kind of sat on the call listening to, there's one tune that they play over and over. I've deleted it from my brain because I can't.
Yes.
And play it over and over. And you've sat and listened to that for 30 minutes. Someone comes on the call and says, let me just put you on hold. And then they're gone. And I promise you, it's enough to, it like rips the soul out of you.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
100%.
But it was it was a big slap on the wrist for me to go because my books weren't up to date. My company hadn't submitted any financials for like 3 years. It was terrifying because I was exactly what you described. And luckily I have no staff. I'm a small business. My cash flow is easy because I have a business account. I can poke my head in and I check everything's going and I manage all of that. But, in terms of my tax, I had handed that over completely and it was a big wake-up call. So I would definitely encourage people to, no matter how much you hate it, and I get it, I hate it, and I am terrified of tax, and I don't understand, and I ask stupid questions, but my only advice to people would be just do it. Ask the stupid questions over and over again. That's what you're paying the accountant for, to answer your stupid questions.
Absolutely. 100%. So my learning of this was when I owned the big business in Joburg, because staff and STL and UIF and all of those kind of things had to be paid. And 1 month out of 13 years, my accountant didn't pay on time. So we missed it by like an hour because you get a cutoff time. It took me, and my husband thought that I was talking nonsense because he was worked in corporate for 51 years. So he thought I was talking nonsense. And I said to him, right, and it was a file this big just to sort out one payment. Take it and go. And he sat at SARS in those years, trying to, after the third time of going back there, sitting in the queues and waiting, he realized, okay, well, maybe I wasn't exaggerating about this. But the biggest lesson was, when you get to staff level, make sure that you've registered in the right places. If you get to VAT level, and this was one of the lessons that I learned, if you are registered for VAT, never get to a point where they pay you, because you will get audited just about every single time. So, make sure your books and everything are balanced, and pay. Make sure it's paid on time. So UIF, VAT, your financials, your financial returns for the year, make sure that somebody's guiding you along the way. And it doesn't have to cost you huge money. There are accountants and people out there that can guide you in the right direction. But really, it's if you haven't gone and had that wake-up call yet, I hope this is the wake-up call, because you need to. If you're a business, understand you're going to be paying taxes. If you're making money, you're going to be paying. It's as simple as what that is. But, obviously make sure all your expenses are in, because that also reduces your taxes. And don't just do the whole bundle. I thought I had some on my table. I wanted to show a whole bundle of slips that you just put into your purse or whatever. Make sure it's done correctly, because it's the biggest downfall for a lot of businesses.
And I just think, just something also for businesses to remember. We've heard a lot of small businesses complaining about the government, and then this must be done and that must be done. But then I promise you, 9 out of 10 times, those are the guys that are putting cash, here in the thing and are trying to avoid tax. Yet, when it comes time for them to ask for help, they have the biggest mouths and the loudest wants and the most needs. But they're always the guy that is not paying tax and not paying VAT and not paying UIF and not looking after their staff. And I'm
Yeah.
often very incensed by that. I'm like, no, 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 no. It works both ways. You need to play nice,
100%.
you want nice,
Yeah.
so
And you 100%. But you can also make a loss in your business. I understand that you can make a loss and you're not going to pay taxes. But
absolutely.
when you start making a profit, you need to
Okay.
start paying taxes.
Mm.
But the other side of the coin is how many of the business owners now during lockdown had been taking a salary? I mean, do you have a salary slip that you get every month?
I should. I just pay myself. But I can create a salary slip. You see, it's easy. No, but it's
Yeah.
like my account shows everything. Like I'm very,
Yeah.
I have a personal account and I have a business account. And my business account, I can hand it over to my accountant. I don't have to fiddle the books or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's like it is what it is. Like
Awesome.
only business
Yeah.
goes through that. I've been very specific about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because I've owned my own
Yeah.
business for a long time and I don't like to muddy the water. It gets very muddy when people go, "Oh, I just
Absolutely.
pay for my kids' stationery through the business."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
No.
Why? Pay yourself a better salary and do it properly.
But it's because they don't pay themselves a salary. So in order to keep afloat, they haven't been paying themselves a salary, so their certain expenses go through. And always I say, it doesn't matter how much it is, pay yourself a salary and
Yeah,
try and pay a little bit more every single month, because psychologically you're going to think you of more worth to your business as you pay yourself more money. But at the same point, a lot of people haven't been able to claim for themselves during this time from UIF because they haven't been paying UIF for themselves. So it's the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
So
You've got
that's where compliancy comes from. So, see what it is that you need and make sure that you're doing it.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Well, I think, Diane, on that note, now that we've wagged our fingers at everyone and shouted at them, no one's going to listen to my podcast anymore. It's going to be like, oh, she just shouts at us. But I hope the message is that really, get your ducks in a row, damn it, and sort your business out and make it clear and stop, with the smoke and mirrors. Like, know what's going on in your business. That is, I think, one of the biggest things. So,
Huge.
yeah, and
But have fun while you're doing it.
absolutely hire
Have
smart
fun.
people. Like
Yeah.
find like smart. Like my bookkeeper, she like is so pernickety, drives me nuts because I'm like big creative, da 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 da, and she'll be like, "But Mel, on the da 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 date at this time, you did this and this payment went off," and I'll be like, "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." Um, but I love her for it. I do. I
Yeah.
respect her because she's that
Yeah.
person. I want that person as
Yeah.
my bookkeeper because I'm not.
100%.
Yeah. So finding the right people to kind of pick up where you're not so good is, I think, also important.
Yeah,
But anyway,
absolutely.
I
And think bigger.
yes,
Think bigger so that you can grow bigger.
absolutely, definitely create that space within your head
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
build into. Yeah. Oh, Diane, it's
Yeah.
been absolutely stunning talking to you. Please
Thank
can
you.
you tell us how people can get hold of you?
Sure. The easiest is to email me, diane@brandanalytics.co.za. They're welcome to go onto my website and register for the newsletter. There's a free ebook on 58 facets of a diamond and of your business that just reminds you of certain things that you should be doing within your business. So that's brandanalytics.co.za. Otherwise, I am on social media, Facebook, or on LinkedIn. They're welcome to go and connect.
Yeah, that's great. And I love all your LinkedIn page is fantastic. And it really gives a wonderful analysis of like a summary of exactly what you do. So I hope many people will
Thank you.
come and visit you. You've got a wonderful offering. So thank you so much
Fantastic.
for being on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure. Awesome. Nice to be here.
Great. Thanks, Diane. Cheers.
Pleasure. Bye now.